As Tony said, this is where our grant review teams come in. We'll have 5 teams, 1 per focus area, comprised of member volunteers. Our reviewers use a standardized process and tools to ensure consistency and fairness as they evaluate applications and determine which agencies will be this year's finalists. In October, each finalist will have the opportunity to present their project proposal in a short video to the full Impact San Antonio membership for voting. We found that sharing this information is helpful in providing you with an understanding of what our members will be looking for. In turn, this should help inform you how to complete your applications. Confidentiality. We understand that each of you is entrusting us with important information about your agency. We take our responsibility to protect your privacy very seriously. We require that every member sign a confidentiality agreement before being allowed to serve on a grant review team. We emphasize expectations for maintaining confidentiality in our training throughout the review process. We also get real familiar with the shredder when it's all said and done. This slide depicts high-level grant review process. While our teams are completing your applications, our members who volunteered to serve on grant review teams will be going through their training for this year's process. The figures shown here represent the approximate number of applications typically sent forward to grant review and how they are narrowed down to finalists and ultimately grant recipients announced on grant award night. In June, project applications move forward to grant review will be assigned to a grant review team by focus area. Grant reviewers will read all of the project applications for their focus area and complete a high-level evaluation and rating for each one. Each team will then meet to discuss the initial review of all applications for that focus area and determine which will be tabled and which will move forward for further review. This next level of review we call deep dive. Applications make it to this phase will be assigned 1 or 2 team members who will complete a more extensive review of that proposal and to answer questions that may have come up during the initial review. Following the deep dive reviews, each team convenes again to discuss results and decide which applications they want to move forward to a site visit. Site visits typically take place in the August timeframe. We encourage grant review team members to attend as many site visits as they are able. Following site visits, each team meets for its final decision meeting. They discuss what they've learned through the entire process and determine agency finalists for that focus area. As a team completes each phase of the review, agencies will be notified of their status and whether or not their project application will move forward in the process. After reviewing each finalist presentation, our Impact San Antonio membership will vote to determine who will be awarded high impact grants and which finalists will receive a smaller support grant. Grant recipients will be announced at our very exciting grant award night in October. High impact grants. This is a super important slide. In training, we emphasize to our grant reviewers that it takes for a project to be considered high impact, thus worthy of an Impact San Antonio grant. Think of these as kind of measuring stick that guide our grant reviewers as they evaluate project proposals. Please keep them front and center when considering what to include in your project applications. 1, the first marker states that a project should address a critical need in 1 or more of our 5 focus areas, which are arts and culture, education, environment, recreation, and preservation, family, health and wellness. Your agency determines the focus area you are applying in. It should also improve the quality of life for people in our community. As a reminder, the counties included in our service area are noted at the bottom of this page. In our training, we emphasize to our grant reviewers that significant benefit can be achieved either through a large number of people or through smaller numbers being impacted in a major way. It's also important that you communicate the approach being used in the project and what evidence you have that it will be effective. I can't stress enough how important it is that the project have compelling and measurable outcomes. I see this as capturing the minds and hearts of our members, of our grant review members and grant reviewers. Measurable outcomes can sometimes be a sticking point for applicants. Make sure what you are proposing can be measured. Ultimately, if you are awarded a grant, you will be using those target outcomes to evaluate the success of your project. So it is to your benefit to have them as clearly defined as possible. My final tip here is that you should ensure you are focused on all 5 of these when completing your applications. I think we can all agree that it's in everyone's best interest for you to submit the best possible project application. Let's start with some general tips we think could help. First, it sounds really basic, but be thoughtful about the name of your project. You'll want to make it short and memorable. You only have 40 characters, so don't waste space including your agency name here. In fact, if you do include your agency's name in the project, we will remove it. Be sure that you've answered each question directly. Grant reviewers will have many applications to read, so be concise, compelling, and don't repeat information across different responses. Regardless of which project category you ultimately choose, we'll touch more on that in a minute. You'll want to clearly articulate the problem or need your project addresses. This is one of the most important questions you'll be asked to answer. It's also the one that most frequently proves to be among the most challenging for applicants. Clearly state how your project targets a critical need that won't be met without it, and provide us supporting information regarding who's affected by this problem and how, data on the specific issue, and population served can be helpful to reviewers here. Be specific about how you'll use requested funds and how your project will add to your services and how it will help achieve your stated project goals and outcomes. Translate this into what you're doing or plan to do impacts people served in our community. Tell us the specific goals you seek and achieve in meaningful and measurable terms. We'll talk about this in a minute. Lastly, having a second or third set of eyes on your application can be very helpful in making sure it's clear and easy to understand. And now let's review our 5 impact essay focus areas. Arts and culture focuses on improving the culture and artistic climate of the areas. Education covers increasing access and improving educational opportunities. Environment, recreation, and preservation includes both conserving and revitalizing the natural environment, as well as improving recreational facilities and preserving historic sites. Family focuses on strengthening the lives of children and families. And lastly, health and wellness focus area includes grants that positively impact the mental or physical health of our community. Recreational space. It's important to carefully choose a focus area for your project. Some projects, this is obvious, but others could fall into multiple focus areas. And there are a few considerations. First, the focus area must make sense to the grant reviewers who will be reviewing grants in a particular focus area. Secondly, the focus area of your project will not necessarily match the focus area for your agency as a whole. For example, a daycare center or a nursing mother's room at a healthcare facility might be better placed in family than a health and wellness. A recreation space connected to a museum might be better in environment, recreation, and preservation than arts and culture. Lastly, be sure to tie the need outlined in the project application to the focus area. We often get questions about how many applications are received in each focus area. That varies from year to year. What we can share is that health and education are the largest sectors of the nonprofit world, and it's not uncommon for us to get the largest number of applications in those areas.